Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Good morning and welcome to the course Introduction to Interaction Design. So, in the previous session we had discussed the user interface design. In today's lecture we will be discussing the elements of user interface. So, now user interface is composed of several elements that help the user communicate with the interface. So, now they help the interaction between the user and the system, and we can consider them to be the building blocks of the visual and interactive components. So, they are helpful in several ways. So, they allow us improve communication, they help us with the usability factor, and they allow us the affordance, like we discussed last time, that based on what they appear like, we know that what is to be done with them. At the same time, the visual hierarchy has to be maintained, and the branding and aesthetics and the accessibility criteria. So, all of these things are possible when we use the elements in the interface, and we saw in the last lecture also that how the layout, for example, needs to be worked out so that the elements can be placed so that they form sort of a story which has a cohesiveness. It is not something which has no connection. So, the importance of the UI components, like we can see here several of them listed, button, menu, icons and all. So, it lies in their ability to provide clear and intuitive input. So, they allow the user to set preferences, make choices, and they also control the behavior of an application or the website. So, at the same time, they also contribute to the overall usability of the interface by providing the visual feedback to the user. So, the user knows that if this action is performed, then what is going to be the output of it. Now, one of the components here is the menu. So, we all are familiar with the menu bar. So, the menu is a set of options, just like in a restaurant the menu gives a lot of food options. So, here also in the interface the menu gives us several options, and so now those options which are required to perform some kind of a function. So, for operating systems like Windows or the Mac operating system, so we have these in both, but how are they presented or how are they accessed? So, that might be slightly different. So, in speech recognition and on the websites also we see these menus, and so here we can see that how when we go to this menu, then we get several of these options. So, it guides the user in fulfilling a certain function. Now, there are several types of different menus. So, one is a pop-up menu. So, it is hidden until we right click, and then it provides us with the contextual options. Then the next is the graphical drop down menu. So, when we click on it, the item reveals the options that are there. Then we have the cascading menu, so which have sub menus and underneath them, so that we can choose the function closest to our requirement. Then we have pull down menus. So the items drop down when the menu title is clicked, and the moving bar menu where the users navigate options by moving a highlighted bar, and also the tear off menus that can be moved within the window for the convenience of the user. So these are the different types of menus that the interface can have. And as we discussed in the previous lecture, that there has to be something binding in the overall interface. So one has to be very clear that which type of menu are we using, because if the user gets used to, say for example, the cascading menu, then where is it the most useful, for what purpose is it the most useful, and what is how, and where is the tear of menu most applicable. So we want to, for example, get a larger screen to work on, so we can move the menu around. So in certain situations one of these will be more suitable, so we have to identify the application of that. So now drop down lists, so they have four main items. So one is the container box, then we have an arrow, so we can see this is the container box, then we have the arrow which is here, and then list of items, and then a label. So generally this particular type of interaction, this drop down allows one to choose only one option. So this is very common when we are selecting the country or the state. So then all these states appear alphabetically, and then we move down and select whatever state it is we want to choose. So when the arrow is clicked, so the screen or the options, they remain visible to us, so that we can make our choice and select the appropriate option out of the others. So now buttons help us achieve the action. So something needs to be pressed or pulled or dragged, some action has to happen, so that the user is able to interact more effectively and gets their work done. So now there are different types of buttons in a interface. So we have a call to action button. So a call to action button is an interactive element of a user interface, so that aims at encouraging the user to take a certain action. So for example, we can see three examples on this screen here. So in the first one, if you notice that this is for the lift application, and here we can see that the first topmost thing is enter mobile number and apply to drive. So here if you see, apply to drive appears first and sign up appears second, but in this one here, sign up appears first and I have an account or login appears second. So what could be the reason for this particular such difference in the way these two are appearing? So why it is like that is that in the second one, which is the head space, so they are looking for more people to sign up. So they probably don't have enough people already who are using this particular application. So they are providing the sign up as the first option. So the minute somebody lands on their application, they sign up. Whereas the lift, they already have a substantial number of followers or users, so where they will apply to drive directly. So that is one slight, you can see that how this slight variation in which button appears first really changes the way one interacts with it. Then here in the third one, we can see that how this particular application is providing some kind of an incentive, that you will get some points based on your purchase or whatever it may be, early bird check-in. So it is another way of sort of enticing the user, and so a call to action button will expect the user to take some action. So either sign up, apply to drive, or log in and earn some points. So, the next type of buttons are the text buttons. So, text buttons are of two types. So, one is primary and the other is secondary. Now, some of the functions that the primary buttons have is for say registering, or if we want the user to buy something, or say sending something, sending or pressing the send button. And the secondary buttons are usually used for cancelling or skipping, or another similar function, like say I want to decline something, so declining. So, you may have noticed that whenever some ad pops in or something, then we either how the yes and skip buttons are placed. Sometimes the skip button is not visible. So, but because that is a secondary button, maybe the developer, the designer wants the user to spend time there and not skip immediately, because the information may be of use to the user. So, but there has to be certain difference between the primary button and the secondary button, so that we can differentiate and not click the incorrect button. So, next we come to the icons. So, icons are small graphical representations. Now, we are familiar with icons, that they represent something that we are familiar with. So, icons, we relate to them because either we already associate them with something existing, or over time we learn that this stands for this particular thing. So, for example, if you see this lock here, so this looks almost exactly like, of course it is not an image of it, but this resembles a lock. So, we know that what a lock looks like when it is locked and when it is unlocked. So, when it is locked, this will be complete, and when it is unlocked, this gap will be created, right. But for example, the red light that we see, the red, yellow and green, so that is something that we had to learn, that red stands for stop, orange stands for get ready, and green stands for go. And so now we have sort of incorporated that understanding into our life. So, we associate red with red and orange and green with stop, wait and go. So, some of the things are learned and some are something that we relate with. So, for example, even the floppy sign, which is used for saving, to save something. So, probably a lot of younger people have not even seen a floppy, but still we know that when we see that symbol, that particular icon, we know that we can save our things. Or for example, a simple this makes a person, or a simple heart shape talks about heart, right. So, now there are 5 types of these icons. We can break them into 5 types. One is the resemblance icons, so which resemble something like the lock, this person or the heart. Then the reference icons, so they define an object or an action through an analogy, and they fall under the category of this reference icons. So, we can see some plant, we see some alphabet, and the this bubble of speech is there. So, we form an analogy there. The next is the arbitrary icons. So, arbitrary icons are which really have no connection. For example, the red light. So, it is an example of an arbitrary icon, but now we have learned to associate it with the different 3 steps that one should take. Then we have the flat and semi flat icons. So, they are minimalistic and they are in the 2D category of icons. Then finally, we have the skeuomorphic. Skeuomorphic icons. So, these are designed to provide a more natural and 3D effect on this interface, and they are the skeuomorphic icons. So, maybe probably you can go back and just look around you the different icons and try to categorize them under these categories. So, I will just write them here. Flat and semi-flat, and fifth is the skeuomorphic. So, maybe you can just go back, take a look around some of the icons that you use on daily basis and try to categorize them under these. Now, progress indicators and meters. So, of course, when we are interacting with the system, there is some sort of a progress that we are trying to achieve, some progress we are making, whether it is only loading of a page or whether it is some action that we are doing. So, now there are two ways in which it is we can see it. So, one is the linear and circular. So, here you can see that this is the linear and this is the circular way of showing the progress. So, here also these are also some examples of the circular. So, we see the circle sort of flickering around the screen. So, we know that something is loading, something is coming up, right. Or we see a line which is now getting darker and darker and darker. So, it is filling up the entire space. So, we know that only this much is left and then my documents will be uploaded in my hard drive. So, these are two broad ways in which we see the progress, and then the determinate and the indeterminate. So, this is the determinate here and the indeterminate. So, determinate it shows basically that for a process to complete, how long will it take. So, we have the start to finish. So, we know that we have to wait till this line reaches the finish. So, it is not an indefinite line which we do not know where will it stop. So, it tells the user that okay, so we can assume that 80% is done or 90 is done. So, that is the determinate and indeterminate. So, in our work when we are using either of these progress indicators, then we have to kind of make sure that we are using only one type of it. So, either we are using the linear or we are using the circular. So, one should not mix and match, like somewhere it is linear, somewhere it is circular. So, that will again be very confusing and frustrating for the user, and it will not really go with the entire scheme of the website. So, more than frustration, it will not just tie the whole work together well, it will look very unpolished and very not very well thought of. The type of meters, some other information is also displayed in that way the meters are. So, like for example, when in our car or bike we see the petrol meter that okay it is going down, or the speedometer that at what speed we are. So, similarly with the help of color and with the help of these pins, we can see that where are we on that scale. So, these are like thermometer, volume meter, value meter, gauge meter. So, they are sort of used here to show the progress to the user. Now, accordion is the menu which is composed of vertically stacked headers that reveal more details when they are triggered. So, we can see here that when this we click on this, so it opens up. So, now this arrow is denoting that we have opened up while the others are closed. If we click on them, then they will also open up and then they will show the employees in maybe Paris or Berlin or Madrid, wherever we want to see them. So, now the accordion UI has headers, so which contain the section titles, and they are meant to be brief. So, how to keep it compact, because now this user interface space is like that real estate market, where it is very important that how do we categorize this information, because we can't just put everything out there. And we saw earlier also in the previous lecture how we have different type of interfaces, like we will have a mobile phone or a tablet or a desktop. So, the space that is available to us is very different in each of the modes. So, how do we display all the functions, all the information in a very systematic manner. So, the hierarchy, the systematic manner, the grouping, everything has to be taken care of at the same time. So, we have to also preserve the space, also leave some space so that the user is not just overwhelmed by all these elements all around him. So, so accordion UI is useful in these cases. Now, similarly, there are panels, and panels, again we can see that how this plus sign, when we click on it, so it opens up, and there is further information that the user can read. Now, switches and radio buttons and checkboxes. So, just like any physical buttons that we use around us, for the radio we tune, for the light switch we turn on off. So, we have several buttons. So, here also we are trying to depict those buttons, of course, because they are not cannot be turned on off physically. So, here we have to still provide a visual appearance of the button, so that the user can know that what they are performing. So, here we can see that on off button. So, it is just a binary method, either it will be on or it will be off, and we can see that when it is on, how the color also helps in communicating to the user that now it is on, it is green, so it is working, and whereas when it is off, so it has sort of ghosted, it is grey in color. Then radio buttons, where we can either select 1, 2 or 3 depending on how many options are given to us. So, here if I select 2, then the 1 will become ghosted. So, I will not be able to choose 1 if I go for option number 2. So, only 1 can be selected, and whereas in the checkbox more than 1 options can be selected. So, generally when we are signing up for a new website, maybe say health website, they will, or say for example Healthify, they will ask that what are you interested in? Are you interested in weight loss, stamina building, muscle building, and several options. So, you do not have to choose 1, you can choose several options, and then they will accordingly, they will prepare the plan for the user. So, now you can see that how we have started to associate also. When we see a checkbox, we know that we can fill in more options, or when we see the radio button, we know that we can only select 1 option. So, so how do we use these, where do we use them, so that the design language of our work is consistent. So, modal windows are these windows that you may have seen, sometimes they come up like when we are about to leave a website. So, they will just come up and they will ask, are you leaving already, or something like that. So, these windows come over the existing window, and they sort of overlap, and little we can say like a watermark sometimes. So, they come up for some additional information, or we can say when we need the user's input. So, or with some special offer here, or some other information that may not be there in the website. So, they also come up at those certain times when they want the user to take benefit of certain maybe discount or certain scheme or certain new arrival that the user may have missed. Now, text fields, we can see here that they are used for smaller inputs like putting in our name, our email, password, and they have certain limitations. Like if it is say for a name, so we can use certain symbols here. In the password also certain symbols are acceptable, or if there are not, a special character has not been used, number has not been used, then it will show an error. It will remind the user that you have to use a special character and a number also. So, so there are multi line text fields. So, this is where which allow the users to enter multiple lines of text, and they are useful when users need to provide like longer description, or they want to write some comment. Then the second is the password field. So, they are similar to the multi-line text field, but the entered text that we enter, it is masked either with some of these stars or these dots, so that it is not visible to the other person. Then we have the numeric field, where if we try to add some alphabet, so it may show an error. It will say that this is not allowed or wrong character. Then we have date and time time fields. So they allow the user to put in the date and time, if they want a parcel to be delivered at a certain time, certain day, or return they have to do. Then next is our search fields. So if there is certain query that I have as a user, so how can I search for it? Maybe there will be this symbol somewhere, so I know that I can search, it will expand, and then I can type in there. And file upload. So when we want to upload some file from our computer, so a button appears, we have to press it, then it shows that how the file is being uploaded, and it shares that the file is uploaded. So these are some of the ways in which we enter the text. And finally the date picker. So now there are again several ways in which the date can be picked. So there is a drop down date picker, wherein we have these date, month, and year. So this drops down when we want to enter the date, so we can scroll through the years and select the right date for our birth, for example. Then we have the calendar pickup, like it is shown here, where the calendar opens up, and then we can select, we can go left or right depending on which year we are looking for, the month, and then we can select the date, for example. So then we have the range date picker. So here they allow us to pick a range. So for example, we are booking a ticket for our flight, then it shows us both the month's calendars side by side. So now if I am selecting this as my outbound flight, then I can also select that when is it I want to return back. So these are some ways in which the date can be selected. So choosing the right date picker is also important, because again the design language of our website or application has to be consistent. So we have to see the color combinations, the font style, the font size, the hierarchy, the placement, the how to identify, where to find. So all of those things will create that visual language which will appeal to the user, and it will also make it very easy for the user to identify the task that he wants to perform, and also will enable him to become a loyal customer of the particular business. So with this we will stop here today's lecture, and we will meet in the next session. Thank you.